you know, February 21st, but in a few hours it'll be February 22nd. We'll probably spend midnight together. Who knows? We'll see how long this goes. I am back from Louisiana. I am back from a lovely weekend pre-Mardi Gras in Nolens. We had a bunch of new legal people we hired, operations and other people for different domains, because the complexity of our company has grown so much, and poor Joel, our chief counsel, is overloaded with the volume. And so we said, hey, it'd be really fun as a team building exercise, bring everybody down to Louisiana, all get to know each other. So we lovely time eating beignets and redfish and lots of crab and interesting seafood. And boy, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to see people down in Mardi Gras. We had some paparazzi down there. Some people were following me around, not sure why or who they were, but that was interesting. It just shows you what happens when you start getting a little bigger. People start taking you too seriously. But it was a lovely time. Love the jazz, love the piano bars, and I live streamed a few things. There was one song we played, "Hey Jude," which is a McCartney song, but I know the only Beatle that I'm acquainted with is John Lennon's son, Sean Lennon. So I tweeted it at him. I said, "That's for you, Sean." It's one of the good ones, because that was the only Beatles song the guys at the piano bar knew how to play. Well, anyway, it's an interesting day. A lot of things have been going on. The Ukraine situation has profound geopolitical implications, and it's scared the international markets. It's very curious to me that cryptocurrencies run counter-cyclic to the my belief is cryptocurrencies should run counter-cyclic to the stock market and all these other places, but instead they're running in pair. So as the Dow Jones goes down, as the Nasdaq goes down, as markets fall and there's fear in the markets, Bitcoin also goes down. Bitcoin's down 15% this week. It tends to drag everything down with it. Rising tides and falling tides. It makes no sense at all, because if the world's going to war and we're worried about inflation and chaos and tragedy, you would think that the opposite would be true, that as instability occurs here, that crypto assets are a safe haven. They're a put on world security and trust in institutions, so they should go up. So I think it's a combination of overheated markets last year combined with some institutional pairing and some retail fear together. Unfortunately, what this means is that everything just goes to hell really quickly. Easy up, easy down. People love the ups, but they forget the downs. And predictably, there's been a tsunami wave of criticism coming to Twitter and other channels saying, do something, save us, save us. Like, first, guys, it's a decentralized ecosystem. If it's truly decentralized, no one has the power to save you. The ecosystem is going to save itself. Honey Badger doesn't care. And more importantly, nothing can be done at any event. If today a cryptocurrency announced a partnership with Microsoft or Google and said it's going to be the Windows standard or the Android standard cryptocurrency, you'd see a short-term spike, and within a week, the gains would be gone. They'd evaporate. Macroeconomics and geopolitical fear eat markets for breakfast. That's just the reality. Look at COVID. When it came out in 2020, everything went to hell. It was blood in the streets. And tomorrow is probably going to be a real tough day for the markets. And that's just where it's at. So that's why you have to zoom out and say, why are we here? What are we doing? And realize that if there's real use and utility and a real purpose in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, things are going to look better, and significantly better than they were 5 years ago. That's always been true for Bitcoin. That's increasingly been true for Ethereum. And it appears to be true for Cardano, because these are real projects with real purpose and real community. And the stable people, the smart people, you know who you are. Nothing more needs to be said. It's just sad, because you feel like you're making progress. You're finally getting adoption. And then you see these kinds of things. However, what's going on in Ukraine and elsewhere in the world where there's instability, like Sudan and so forth, is just a testimony to the need for cryptocurrencies and why we're here. At any given moment, cyber attacks or authoritarianism can shut off your money, can seize your assets, can shut off your right to vote, can destroy your identity, rewrite your identity, these types of things. It's true that these powers will always be abused by the powerful. So you have to say, well, isn't it about time we take back our lives? Isn't it about time we take back our sovereignty, become self-sovereign individuals? Isn't it about time that we be our own bank and be our own institution so that we don't have to live in fear that all the things we've achieved and gained can be taken from us so quickly? And that's the lesson to learn here. And I think the world as a whole will become increasingly more aware of that lesson. And it's going to eventually work its way through. And if we're right, what that translates to is global adoption of cryptocurrencies above and beyond a few tens of millions of people, but billions of people, and entire circular economies that live within that bubble. And a lot of good things to come. You know, we got a great update coming soon for Cardano, and then come June, there's going to be the Vossel hard fork, and then the next hard fork will occur October. And with that, you have SIP 31, 32, 33, you have pipelining, you have input endorsers, you have a lot of great technology. And the brass tacks is it's commercial technology. There's no more theory here. You know, security is achieved. The network's at scale. We've demonstrated it survives under enormous load. It doesn't shut down. What that effectively means is now it's time to turn on the commercial stuff, meaning 10x's of performance here and there, and all the kinds of things and expressiveness that are required for the next wave of dApps. There are over 500 projects now building on Cardano. That's incredible because the last time I checked 2 weeks ago, there were 300. And I got the numbers today and I said 500. Wow, that's crazy. So Cardano's open for business. We're going to be at Consensus down in Austin, Texas. We'll negotiate that out. And we're going to bring a lot of people with us. Not us, just IO and CF, but the ventures that are building. So we'll work something out. We'll announce something. If you want to come with us and showcase what you're building, what you're doing, we'll have a hackathon down there. You know, we're really going to show everybody who we are, what we're doing. And then in October, I'd love to go back to Bermuda 8 years later for my TED Talk and talk about what we achieved in the last 8 years as an industry and Cardano in particular as a product and what it's done for the developing world, where we're at. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of lies. You know, there's a lot of people floating around just telling you garbage, verbal diarrhea. And you always have to take a step back and ask, who are these people? Why do they say what they say? Sometimes it's fear. You know, sometimes it's because they have commercial interests, and sometimes they're just misinformed and they go run with it like a town crier babbling to everybody, ringing the bell. And other times there's strong financial incentives that pervade to create narratives. For example, there's a work of fiction coming out tomorrow. It's a book by an author who shall remain nameless, and it absolutely eviscerates many of the Ethereum founders, myself included. And it's just a really unfair book. It's a work of fiction at the end of the day, you know, and probably some truth in it, some inconvenient truths for some, and a whole lot of speculation and innuendo and insinuation. And that's just a example of perverse incentives. You see, you dial that up, such a book becomes a movie. And if you get lucky as the author, it becomes the next Social Network with your Justin Timberlake and all-star cast, Oscar awards, and more importantly, millions of dollars of profit for the author. That's the economy we live in. I think the Kardashians have been on for more than 15 seasons. We love to watch the lives of the rich and famous. We love to watch the lives of the powerful and infamous, and we love to have heroes and villains. We love stories. It's who we are as people. There's nothing materially different in psyche from the tribes sitting around the fire 10,000 years ago and us today. You take someone born then, you raise them today, they'd look and sound exactly like you and me. You take someone born today, you raise them there, they'd look and sound a lot like a Paleolithic person. Just that simple. And the one unified thread is storytelling. That's what got the human race through its at. So you have people with their exits and their entrances and their villains and the heroes, and there's marketplaces for these things. But the story that we should all remember is the story that we have dominion over our own lives, and we are capable of achieving liberty and freedom. That's what I care about, and that's what I've become increasingly more concerned about. Many of you notice I've become a little bit more political during the age of COVID. It's because we are creating, through mandates, second-class citizens. We've taken a group of people and we said, if you don't do something, then you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to a bar, you can't go to a coffee shop. And we never really set a condition of what we're really worried about. And I'm just not really comfortable with the idea that society gets to create second-class citizens. That's why people protest. And then when they do, they get silenced and speech gets destroyed, and informed consent, which is the bedrock of medical ethics, gets challenged. And that's just one thing. There are many things going on. There are many lies going on, and people have an all-time low opinion of and trust of institutions, whatever those institutions may be. And when their political party wins, they don't seem to have much problem with it. When their political party loses, the institutions are intrinsically dangerous and corrupt. And the reality is that there's collusion on both sides behind the veil to rob you of your money. That's what's going on. We've witnessed the largest wealth transfer in history the last 2 years between the poor to the rich. And that's not going to stop unless the systems change and the institutions change. It's just that simple. The whole point of what we do as an industry is to change things. You think maybe it's a good idea for us not to have Putins and Xis. They would have never been able to come to power if there were governments of integrity and principles. Problem resolves itself. You think it's a problem that we have certain people in the White House, pick your favorite political side. Those people would have never come to power. We did politics differently. You'd have different leaders and different incentives. But we have what we have. And now wars are breaking out. Markets are uncertain. Inflation is very pervasive. And a lot of people are very scared. So you have a choice to make when you're scared. As terrifying as it can be. You can take a step back and survey the entire situation, orient yourself, observe, and try to come up with some way of moving forward, however terrifying that is, and believe that whatever course of action you're taking is going to get you to higher grounds in a better world, or you can just give up. There was an experiment that was done at Harvard many decades ago when they didn't care as much about medical ethics, where they took some rats and they dunked them in water and they let them sit in these vats of water, and they timed how long the rats would swim before they gave up and just decided letting themselves drown. And so they left them in the vats for 15 minutes on average, and the rats would give up. Right before they drown, they'd rescue them, dry them off, let them recover a little bit, and then dunked them in the water again, see how much longer they'd last on the second try. Most people, if you ask them, guess how long you think the rats would last the second time they've been dunked in the water, would say, I don't know, probably less time, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, they're tired, kind of get a little hopeless. It was the opposite. 60 hours, 15 minutes to 60 hours. Why? Because the rats had hope of being saved. The lesson is hope is a powerful thing. Belief is a powerful thing. So powerful that it has the power to sculpt nations. Wasn't too long ago that a bunch of people got a crazy idea in their head that because they were really pissed off about political grievances, lack of representation, encroachment of their rights and liberties, they decided to declare a revolutionary war against the most powerful nation on the planet and fought a brutal conflict without proper rations or clothing or ammunition, and through sheer force of will tamed an empire. And from that was born a nation, an imperfect one with many problems that still is imperfect, but that's where we came from as a people. We were born of hope and a belief that we could get something better. So in many ways, that's the point of this industry. Take it or leave it. You can hate anybody you want. Plenty of founding fathers in America. You think they all got along? John Adams and Thomas Jefferson probably stab each other with knives at some point in their lives. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Aaron Burr shot Alexander Hamilton. Not exactly the best of friends, although Jefferson and Adams did become at the end of their life, which is so extraordinary. But despite the fact that they didn't get along all the time, especially didn't get along, they found a way to set it aside and figure out a way forward. We as an industry have to do better. And some people want to focus and monetize on the past or the present, and some people just want to grab as much as they can for their own interest and leave the rest of us to drown. But I'd like to believe most people, when they see a problem, are willing to solve that problem. Cardano is a reflection of your efforts, my efforts, and the efforts of millions now. 500 dApps building, 3 million assets issued, an ecosystem and economy to a better world. We did our part. We did all the research. We figured out how to get protocols that actually work. And believe it or not, I had a few things to do with it, but some people say no. And now it's a part of the community with us to take it to the next level. I do less AMAs today than I have historically because they're less relevant. It's no longer the guy sitting on the mountaintop preaching the sermon. I'm just your friend. I'm here. We grew up together. We know each other. And it's fun to talk to you, especially when there's sometimes fear and panic or things don't work out the way that we think it's going to work out, because we're all in this together. We're on the same boat. Whether it's a bad market day, a good market day, I'm here. And nothing gives me more pleasure and happiness than to talk to you guys and spend time with you guys and gals. You're really just exceptional people. And you've changed my life. You've changed my perspective. You give me hope. I often ask, why do you keep swimming? You don't need to anymore. I swim because of you. And I think I'll last a lot longer than 60 hours. I'll tell you that. Year by year, I get tired and worn down. The constant criticism, the politics of personal destruction, all the hate, negativity, toxicity, all the things that people say and do, all the threats. I have security now. Never used to have that. Now I do. I have no privacy anymore. Everywhere I go, I'm tailed and followed. I endure all of that because at the end of the day, we together have a seat at the revolution. We get to change the world together. Some people get to be officers, and some people get to be soldiers, and some people get to be legislatures, and some people are just well-wishers, here to add some support. And that's pretty special. I don't know of anything I can do in my life that's more meaningful than this. I don't want to be a spectator when nations get invaded and people's rights get trampled and the world goes to hell and the money in my pocket loses 20% of its value every year. I don't want to be a spectator in a castle somewhere living a gilded life, saying poor peasants. That's the greatest evil a man can ever embrace, indifference to the suffering of others. I got to be there in the arena. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but always in the arena, always fighting, always ready, always prepared, because that's just who I am. And there's a hell of a lot of people listening right now who are exactly the same. And when you put them together, you got an army. And as long as you have an army, well-trained, not well-trained, well-supplied, not well-supplied, as long as you have an army, you got a chance. And that's all you need to keep swimming. So we're going to win. All right. You listened to me rant for 20 minutes, and now it's your turn. Let's talk. Let's see your questions. It's a rough market for us new investors, Charles. It's a rough life, Roy. Think about it. You left your money in US dollars, just put it in cold, wet sack, you lose 20%. Just like that. That's how bad inflation really is. They say 7.5. It's actually 20. That's bad. That's bad for all of us. It's getting difficult as time goes on. There are so many human rights violations, and the battle seems insurmountable. Yeah, it does, but you can always find a way to get it better and resist and build up. You know, don't lose the faith. With great technology comes great responsibility and the need for wisdom. And the leaders that we have right now, they're not so good. And they're aging out. So the next generation, it's up to us to figure this one out. Worthless talks from a guy who likes to speak like a guru and pretending he is trying to be just a simple guy. Sam, can you show me where on the doll they touched you? Are you okay? Do you need a hug, man? You just got hate in your heart, man. It's okay. It's okay, Sam. We love you. We're going to give you space to heal and get the support that you need. I saw you at a stoplight one day in Boulder. Well, damn Skippy, Horn Hunter. What was I driving? Please burn coins. All right. I just want to remind everybody, please create a burn contract. We're ready to go. What's your take on the potential war, Charles? So here's the thing about Putin. He's an old school KGB guy. And the pretense of that order are very simple. Where there is weakness, take advantage. So if your adversary is a drinker, give him a drink. If your adversary likes women, give him a woman. If your adversary has the same pattern and habit and approach to life, learn it and use it against them, whatever it might be. America used to be strong, powerful, dominating. Withdrawal from Afghanistan, 20 years of war, weariness. We're weakening a bit. Europe's resolve is weakening a bit. Politics are different now. So, the Soviet Union used to be this big. Now they're here. And so wherever weakness shows itself, take advantage. Land, geopolitical influence, power. See, invade, not invade, create a geopolitical buffer. It's a negotiation point, leverage. Ukraine doesn't join NATO. Move your missiles further back. Get rid of them altogether. Abandon a certain piece of technology. You can ask for anything. And just by creating the crisis, you go from zero to something. And however weak the government is, the adversary is, you take advantage of that. That's the way this guy thinks. It's some zero. And that's the way he thought for the last 20 years. It's not going to change. Yeah, that's how Putin is. It's who he is. So should we be surprised about what's going on? Should we be surprised that someone is taking advantage of situations? The same when China and Russia get together and they make a deal to start trading things in euros instead of dollars. De-dollarization of the world. That's another geopolitical push to weaken a bit. And the more missteps that are taken geopolitically, the more power they're going to gain. I remember the presidential debates between Romney and Obama. And Romney very accurately said the Russians, they're asserting strength and dominance again. And they're going to be one of our biggest geopolitical adversaries in the next 10, 20 years. And he was mocked brutally for that. And now we're here because there was intent and desire. The first challenge of Putin was when he came to power, oligarchs, president. And he had to do this, president, oligarchs. And once that was cleared through, they had an economic downturn, can't take the blame for that. Somebody else comes in, and then he comes back. Now he's dictator for life. And okay, what does a dictator do? They started flexing muscles, asserting dominance, changing the subject, making sure they're always ahead of the narrative and so forth. Okay, that's what they're pushing for. Weakness. There's an old saying, nature abhors a vacuum. And that's what Russia's doing. They see a vacuum and they're taking advantage of it. Now, there are many things wrong with the U.S. government, and the war machine has to be fed. So there's huge incentives, military-industrial complex, to find the next boogeyman in the next conflict. Afghanistan's over. The war on terrorism's not exactly as sexy as it used to be. So let's go drum things up with the Ruskies. $700 billion plus a year spent on this machine that employs millions of people. What are we going to do? Just shut it down? No president's crazy enough to do that. They might end up having Kennedy in their last name, and things happen when they go down that road. So, got to feed the beast. We Americans, we seem to love our wars. War on drugs, war on terrorism, war on poverty, war on this. And at the end of the day, you end up hiring millions of people to do it, and then you can't stop the war because those millions of people get fired. Think it through. Now we have the medical industrial complex. Every year, you have to take your medicine. $100 billion gets sent to private industry. No liability. They don't have to pay to develop anything. They get it for free, and you have to pay them through your tax dollars. It's a racket. Spit and truth. Can I please work on your mushroom farm? I'm experienced in agriculture and from Colorado. I am looking for a guy. So I tell you what, here's my EA. You send your resume to me. Right there. That's my EA. Send your resume to Jeffrey. Go ahead and save that. And send me your resume. I want to know all about you. I might even have lunch with you. Who knows? I am looking for a guy. I got a mushroom farm turning online here in March. Going to grow some lion's mane and a few other things. Charles, when can we have a network that's uncongested? Everything's very slow. Well, blocks are not at 100% capacity. You're running about 70. It's not ideal, but a lot of that's on the DApp side, not on the network itself. Blockchain is getting larger in terms of block size mem units, and that helps a little bit. Pipelining in June is going to be the big one. And then you'll feel very natural at that point. Then input endorsers is the 1-2 punch, and that's what gets us to that high TPS rate. This is as expected. Everything's going according to plan. Don't worry about it. How did you enjoy your time on crypto, Jeb? I always enjoy my time when people have a great interview. They ask me good questions. We just have a good rapport. It's fun. Just talk to people. Treat people with respect. I had to ask this question on AMA vid. How does Atala Prism bring value to Cardano? Are there chain metrics from the use of Atala Prism that can be identified in the Cardano blockchain? So it looks like metadata with hashes when you do batch drops of people. And generally speaking, when you're talking about mass registration of millions of people, that is done as a roll-up of people in some sort of data structure that's authenticated. And you can go as arbitrarily large as you want. You can only have a single hash for that if you trust the source to possess that data. But you're always able to verify if you construct the snippets off-chain correctly. Now, as an individual, so the self-sovereign identity component, every identity would relate to a transaction. So it's either many to one or one to one, or it could be even many to many, just depending on the way you use Atala Prism. And if you have the actual DID in the memory or just a hash representation of it as an integrity check of the DID. So in practice, the integrity check makes a lot of sense because when you have like 5 million people, like the Ethiopia deal, or 8 million people, like the Boost Dish deal, that's 13 million people, 13 million transactions. Why? It just bloat the network. No, and these are centralized services at the end of the day. You just want to know as an employer that the credential you're given with the proof checks out and hasn't been tampered with. The blockchain component is the trusted bulletin board to say it's not been tampered with. So you'll see some hashes in the chain, and they're just hashes. And those are usually fidelity checks for some file, an integrity check for some file. But because their centralized systems run off-chain, that's as far as you can take them. Over time, as peer-to-peer identity goes, then you're actually going to see registered DIDs, not just hashes, because you're using it as the key server, like the MIT key server for PGP or these things, the public-private key. You see that identifier and a hash of the DID document that's associated with it, which is, and then you can see the web of trust form around that. That's a different way of using Prism. And how does it value Cardano? Well, it values, I see, in three ways. One is user acquisition, because once they have a DID, they're usually in some form of wallet infrastructure, which is Cardano. Great. 13 million customers. Great. Let's get them into the family, get them using dApps at some point. It's a long road, but we'll get them there. And you can always scale because that's B2B2C play. Two, once you have identity in the system, then you're able to do compliance. And if you can do compliance, then suddenly you can do regulated activities. For example, taking technology like what Acuant has with AML KYC for AML KYC with a DID, then you could talk about one-click exchange creation. So you talk about frictionless use of cryptocurrencies for consumers. It would be really cool if I just boot up my wallet. Oh, I need to trade that. They click a button and they're using Coinbase. The account auto creates. No compliance check, no wait. It just boom, it's frictionless, and you have the same interface in the wallet or things like that. Or the third area is regulated dApps. So what if you have a DEX, but you say to use this DEX, there's an entry condition where you have to have a DID with a whitelisted KYC/AML. So it's still decentralized trading and order books and no custodial risk or counterparty risk or things like that. But it is regulated at the entry and exit points from saying that somebody has to be accountable for knowing who the users are. That's an example of regulated dApp. That's not something the space commonly does today, but as regulation comes, it's going to be something people begin exploring. And we get all three for free with Prism. Mass B2B2C, customer acquisition, you get that cream filling in the middle, and then you get obviously the regulated dApps. So a lot of automation of regulation, and a lot of things about building an identity system, super important in the overall usability of the system. The other thing is that identity is key for all credit relationships. You have to know the person. You don't necessarily have to know the name of the person or the physical real identity of the person, but you need some object that's Sybil resistant, that is able to have enough reputation weight behind it that the value of burning the reputation is less than the value of cheating you. You see, and so as long as you have a system like that, you can have anonymous lending, but safe lending and create credit metrics and scores. And that's what we're basically building. So identity is key. It's one of the bedrocks, one of the foundational pillars of a cryptocurrency working properly. By the way, all our critics never mention that. 13 million people. It's as if it doesn't exist. Put it in the book. Maybe people like reading it. Who knows? This is a good one. Charles, kindly update us on the status of Paper Wallet. We are working on a light wallet. That light wallet will have a Paper Wallet center in it, and I'm going to make sure that that center has QR codes that are encrypted. I really believe in that. I think it's an awesome idea because it protects you from printer attacks, and it's a good way of saving things. And you can also potentially store them in email as a backup mechanism securely. So this is something I care a lot about. I want to do it. And I'd absolutely love to see it done with animated QR codes for the digital backup. That'd be fun. Charles, what are your thoughts on blockchain domains? I mean, if we could redo the internet all over again, we would use a trusted bulletin board as our domain space instead of ICANN. It's an example of replacing an institution that's centralized with something that's decentralized. From Fat Boy Gutta, do you like tacos? Yes, I do, sir. Tacos come in all different shapes and sizes, and I love all the colors of the rainbow. Charles, latest thoughts on Ergo. 5,000 outputs in one transaction. Way to go, Alex. Charles and Amber should hang out. Who the hell's Amber? Got to give me more. When will it be EVM compatible? Cardano really seems to be missing out on cross-chain dApps. Look at DC Spark and what they've created with Milkamita. They're already running an EVM chain. And then next month, we should have a testnet out for it. And throughout the year, we're going to roll out the entire sidechain strategy and show you guys how to run your own sidechain. What were your thoughts about the Ethereum conference you attended, and did you converse with the formers? I did see Vitalik, gave him a fist bump. I kind of didn't have a chance to talk too much because he was busy. There was a long line of people, and this is probably the first time that they've ever had a chance to talk to him or see him. So I figured let them do that. Why ruin the fun? Saw a lot of people, talked to a lot of people. The castle is legendary in the Ethereum community, and F Denver has been going on since the beginning. It's grown a lot. It used to be they argued about how to pay for pizza for so many people for a hackathon, and now it's a big event. Governor of Colorado comes, other people come. And I was treated with respect, and no one yelled at me. No one, threw anything at me like the Bitcoin conference I went to last year, the toilet paper roll. For the most part, people were very friendly and curious and friendly. And if people didn't like me, they certainly didn't make it known, or they just avoided me. But all things considered, it was just too dense. The other thing was that, you do a lot of work, cryptography and information security. You start developing a security mindset. And there's a lot of security theater there at that event. It's very easy to gain entry. If you have one person, you can swap the wristband and the badge and just kind of work your way through it, get in through the front door, and then play a game of musical telephones with that. The other thing is you had to take a COVID test to enter, but we had to do it ourselves as groups of 5. It wasn't supervised. There's just too much chaos and pandemonium, which means you can just like spit on the test and it'll come up negative. You have to get a Phryngeo swap to even get a notion. So what value does that provide? None, absolutely none. But okay, let's take the COVID test, and that somehow makes everybody feel better about life. Also those kits that they were providing were standard kits that you could buy at Walgreens. So you just take one with you and show the guy, oh yeah, I took it. Here you go. See a single line. We're good. So, stuff like that really bothered me. And I saw some people actually walk out of line and say, this is antithetical to everything I stand for. And I understand that, a blockchain conference being like, you must comply, you must do this. But, it's neither here nor there. It's a private event, so they have the right to decide what they want to do. But all things considered, I had fun. I didn't get invited to speak or anything like that. And really not much to talk about there. I guess I could have mentioned the EVM sidechain and lessons learned from doing a BFT-based EVM system, if that's interesting to anybody. But we're definitely going to have a bigger showing at Consensus in Davos this year. And we'll definitely talk to a lot of people through that. Didn't run into Joe Lubin, and I did not run into Gavin. I think they were there, but I did run into Vitalik. So didn't have a chance to talk to Joe and Gavin. A lot of hate, though, on the internet, and a lot of hate in Reddit and other places from people in the Ethereum community, and bizarre beliefs. Certain people in the Ethereum circle have converged to total clarity on who I am as a person, which is surprising because I don't even have total clarity on myself, but they have total clarity to the point where they feel very comfortable saying I'm a sociopath, a pathological liar, a hype man, no technical skills, rah, 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 rah. Any evidence to the contrary, they ignore. Any demonstration of humility or humanity or concern or care is explained away as an elaborate ruse to deceive people. To what end? We're still here. We still keep going. Don't have to be here. EOS guys ran away. Block One's being sued, I guess, by their own community. I'm still here. Been at this game longer than them, too. Cardano, Cardano, Cardano. Never leave, never go. Keep going. Like Helmos, we told everybody what we're going to do. We did it. And now we're telling them what we did because they don't believe us. I think that's just a reflection on where society as a whole is at. We like villains and we like heroes. We like convenient, easy narratives, and confirmation bias is a thing. And the Ethereum community in particular, a lot of people there have succumbed to the politics of personal destruction and narratives. Guys, we don't always ship on time. You don't either. You're a hell of a lot more late than anything we are in our roadmap. Furthermore, we wrote everything down in a very careful way, and every single critic who succumbs to the politics of personal destruction are incapable or unwilling to actually have an intellectual discussion about what we've done doesn't work. The book author who shall remain nameless did a podcast today, it came out today, and said, well, the launch of smart contracts on Cardano is a failure. We are not a real competitor to Ethereum. We've bamboozled and misled people. News to SundaeSwap, news to Meld, news to Occam, news to everybody who's building stuff, especially things running right now today. You can do swaps. Stuff is happening. It's an extended UTXO model. It's an entirely new programming model that's never been done before. But they just subscribe to this belief, and it's unchallenged. Nobody says, well, maybe there's some merit there. Maybe something good's been done there. No. It's Charles bad, Cardano bad. All of you listening who like us are a cult, and the only reason we've achieved what we've achieved is because of some elaborate manipulation that's so sophisticated that we wrote 130 papers, academic papers, and went through the peer review process, invented new protocols, and changed the science of the entire industry just to facilitate an elaborate con. So sophisticated that it will actually deliver a real product just to justify itself. It's almost like that South Park episode where the chief of police of South Park is doing stings, and he dresses up as a prostitute to catch Johns, and he takes it too far. He starts sleeping with the Johns and arresting them after he sleeps with them, and then eventually he falls in love with one of them, and he's like marrying the person, and then right at the wedding he says, "Freeze! You're under arrest." This is the mental thought process that those people on that side of the aisle live in. For 6 years straight, we've been building a community, been doing the right thing, been pushing for it for 6 years. All this code, all these people, hiring people, dealing with people, everything from military contractors to firms in the Eastern Bloc to people in Africa, just going all these places, just so that at the end of the day we can go freeze. It's like, what are you doing? This is so nuts. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But it is what it is, and it's the same kind of a conspiratorial thinking that has infected politics. If you don't like Trump or Biden, a lot of people are willing to believe pretty much anything to confirm what they say. Anything, any depravity, they will go for it if they can find a way to justify it. It's where we're at. People are hurt. The source of all of it isn't me or anything I did 10 years ago for the 6 months I was at Ethereum. It's the trauma everybody is feeling right now. The world doesn't have as much love as it needs. We've just spent 2 years separated and being lied to, and we're hurt. Institutions are failing us. Not a lot of people are economically where they need to be. And all the things you're told to do to improve the situation, go to college, start a business, all these things, decks being stacked against you globally. And then you got the most powerful people in the world, like Klaus and the rest of the gang, saying you'll own nothing and be happy. And dystopian realities being inflicted on people like social credit. People are scared. People have trauma. People are angry. Angry, traumatized, scared people, they lash out. They attack people. They look for villains. They get cynical. They're bitter. Anybody who's been abused knows this. Anybody who talks to someone who's been abused knows this. Collectively, as a race, billions of us have been abused by what's been going on. We're not happy as people anymore. It's why depression's at an all-time high. It's why PTSD is at an all-time high. It's why divorces and domestic violence and a litany of other things are at all-time highs, and suicides at an all-time high. Think about it. These are just facts. And this is just an example of it. And it's sad. Hating someone is like taking poison and hoping the other guy dies. Doesn't really accomplish much. And succumbing to the politics of destruction is the exact same thing at the end of the rainbow. You're only hurting yourself. And sometimes you pay that check much later on in life, but you always have to pay for it at some point, either in missed opportunities or personal unhappiness or some issue. So if we're ever going to get out of this as an industry and as a society, we have to really take a chill pill, and we just have to learn how to relax a bit and listen, and also look up to people. Think the best in people. Or we can just keep throwing hand grenades at each other. Charles, what happened with the wallet that was announced at the summit? We're building it, man. Got a huge fucking team on it. We've been building and building and building. It's coming out this year, sooner rather than later. I want it out. I'm excited. Charles, do you think we're in the Great Reset? Absolutely. There's a lot of people running around really trying to fuck us up. You always have to face the raven. That's true. What are your thoughts on Pernus? Pernus. Well, Woods Z01, I just don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what a Pernus is. Can you elaborate a little bit more and just give me a little bit more about Pernus? You are rich. Well, yeah, I'm rich in a money that loses 20% of its value every year. Even with the official numbers at 7.5%, every 9 years, half my value disappears. With 20%, which is the real number, every about 3.5 years, my value disappears, goes down by a half. Within 10 years, I have 1/8 of the value. Wow. Doing a little bit better, but that just means I'm further back in the line. But we're all going to the same place. And you know what? They can take it from you. You don't think I'm on a list? Charles, can you address the new FUD that Hydra is only theoretical and not possible from some GitHub comment? No, they're completely fucking wrong in every possible way. Hydra is absolutely possible. It's got a public roadmap, version 0.3. We have great releases. I think they're every 3 weeks. Tons of things to do. Put roll-ups in the head and tail protocol. But it's public. It's out there. This is an example of FUD misinformation to reality. Hydra is in the life cycle of applied research. A paper was written, a philosophy was embedded, and now it's an engineering problem. And as engineering is being done, things are being discovered about Cardano that need to be updated, modernized, and changed to accommodate the reality on paper. So the team is in rapid iteration, and every few weeks they learn something, and the project evolves. And that project is co-building with 6 commercial partners. So we have a bunch of dApp guys, and we say, we'd like to see you use Hydra in your dApp. Taboja is in charge of that program, 6 of them, working alongside the scientists, working alongside an engineering team, and the community as a whole. And we're making progress. SIP 36, we discovered we need to modify some things to make it easier to deploy Hydra on the system. That's the point. New Hydra papers are coming. Updates to the protocol are coming. Guys, Ouroboros Classic can't run a real cryptocurrency. Ouroboros, Prouse, and Genesis can, as we see with Cardano today. We had to implement and iterate to get to Prouse and Genesis, and we're doing the same with Hydra. But somebody in GitHub says, no, it's not possible. Oh, no, the GitHub commenter. Ah. Okay, great. Oh, the misinformation in this space. Cringe? Your cringe or my cringe? Charles, can we get another programming language to use other than Haskell to build on Cardano? Yes, Cardano is a multi-paradigm system, a multi-computation model. EVM support is coming. Did Colorado's governor get back to you? Jared Polis is his name. I've known him since before he was governor. He ran the Jared Polis Foundation, and then he was the congressman for my county, Boulder County, and then he became the governor of Colorado. Not hard to talk to the governor. I know Governor Gordon up in Wyoming so much better than I do Governor Polis, but it's not a big deal. And, you know, honestly, I think Wyoming is a better state, more prime for a crypto company than Colorado. But, you know, Big Ten. And I'm sure we'll run into Polis a lot. We talked to several people in state Colorado, I think the Attorney General and a few others. And, you know, I've been here for 20 years. I know Colorado really well. Charles, what's up with Mike Alfred and his hate towards Cardano on Twitter? Oh, he has Cardano derangement syndrome. But, you know, the thing about Mike is that it's one thing to say, I think the price is going to collapse and ADA is useless and has no utility and all these guys are incompetent. And this is puffery and qualitative statements. Allowed to do that, no problem at all. It's not libel. It's just like